Hello and welcome to Limited Adhesion Season 6 Round 2. This evening we are at Rudskogen in Norway. First visit there for the GT3s in our league. And a familiar face in the commentary booth again is Random Dave. How are you this evening, Dave?
Yeah, I'm good actually. Yeah, sorry, I'm just sorting out the volume here because I can't hear a word you're saying, but I assume you said how am I? And yeah, I'm alright.
Great to hear.
Sorted now.
That's alright. So our first visit to Rudskogen in this series, we've seen it in silly season, I believe, with the trucks amongst others. But it's going to be interesting to see how these cars get around the track.
Well, lots of 3-point turns.
Yeah, I can imagine it might be a moving car park.
We did it in the F3 as well, didn't we?
Yeah, that's true, yeah. So we take a look at the standings. Ollie Walker sitting on top after the first race on 51 points. Don Parker sitting up in the lofty heights of second with 42 points. Lee Harding, David Lyne, Mark Innes in the top 5 with Maxwell, Conception, Shaw, Gerber, Miller, Ettridge and Barrow all scoring points within the first round. We might see a couple of familiar faces this evening in the shape of Steve Greening and Nicola Lee making their debuts for Season 6. So I'm looking forward to seeing how well they fare. So welcome to those guys. And in the Club 1500 we've got Mark Zeff leading the way ahead of Damon Mitchell, Dan Hill, Simon Garau, Chris White, Steve Pepper, Gerber, Barlow, Meisters and Sean Clark, who scored points from the first round. And James Pepper joining us this evening. So we've got the Pepper duo in DSR Orange and DSR White appearing tonight. That's going to be a good one. From memory, it was pretty close between most of the field in Club 1500 last time round. You see the guys taking their practice laps. You can see the championship standings. Alpha Esports and the Wizards are out in front in the top split. I can imagine the BMW is going to be quite slow around here over the others, but even though it will be quite a slow track for, it feels more like a bus for that car. It's quite big.
I get a feeling that this would be best in the Audi or the McLaren. Yeah,
definitely. And we can see in Club 1500 DSR Orange well out in front at 71 points, ahead of 722's Motorsport and DSR White, and Progredo F, I believe, is Simon Garau's team. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Yeah, especially that downhill section going into turn 3, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, the big long sort of right-hander, you mean?
Yeah, definitely, and I think big chance of off tracks and corner cuts as well, which might give slowdowns.
So
as we see, Evan Conception's got the pole there.
But look, Nicola Lee's there as well in a BMW. Yeah. He's the top BMW, in fact.
Yeah, well done, Nicola. That's a good result for him. Stephen Maxwell, who we've always known has had pace, is now starting to show it. Is take 4th position ahead of David Lyne. It's a bit down the order this time. Simon Garau takes 6th position, and indeed the first of the clubbers. Steve Greening in 7th. Ollie Walker all the way down in 8th. So I'm not sure what's happened to him. That's a bit unknown for him to be that far down. Mark Zeff taking 2nd in the clubbers ahead of Lee Harding. So there's a couple of names down there you wouldn't expect to see. Ollie Ettridge there as well.
So Ollie in the F3 was a little bit off the pace around here. And Steve Greening, I think when he did the race in the F3, just I think he spun a lot. Off the top of my head,
it might not be their track, so we're doing a full lap ahead with the pace car. Yeah, you can see there's not going to be much room for overtaking. You're really going to have to capitalise on someone's mistakes or potentially down into turn 3 and the home straight.
But by mistakes, that's going to be hitting an off track, and off tracks here are outrageous. So yeah, like you can easily get one. So I suspect that's where the bulk of the overtaking will happen.
Yeah. It's a nice view back. I believe that's Nicola Lee just in the background there.
Yep. He's not really done much GT3 stuff, and here he is, the the fastest BMW.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he fares against what we consider our top level GT3 drivers as the pace car heads into the pits.
I mean, the other thing here is Gural there being the top 1500 clubber. That's quite pacey. Maybe he doesn't belong in the clubbers.
Quite possibly. We'll soon find out as Evan Conception gets us underway ahead of Rob Miller. We're going to see any brave moves into turn 1. Nicola Lee seems to have overtaken Miller down the inside as they managed to slam the anchors on. Evans managed to pull a little bit of a gap. Line has got ahead of Gural, as I can see on the standings. So not a good start from Gural in terms of his position.
Line went out very wide there though, which is giving Steve the run.
Yeah, Greetings managed to get the move done. Fairly clean start so far. We'll see if anything happens, because we will have cold tyres going around here. Oh, and as I said, that is Lee Harding off. Yeah, the green car of Lee Harding. So he's going to have a lot of work to do very early on. I suspect that's a spin. We'll soon find out, no doubt, in the replay. Yeah, so Maxwell's still sitting in 4th. So that's Damon Mitchell has taken first position. So something must have happened to Gural, so he must have had a spin also. And that's Mark Zeff fighting with Mitchell for the top spot in Club 1500. There's a little bit of chopping and changing at the front for the Club 1500 there already. And we've seen Dan Hill just behind them as well. So Conception's pulled out almost a second lead as they start to file in for the clubbers.
So we've
Mark
got
Innes is in amongst there as well.
We've got Lee from, I forget, they've changed their name, have they? Not like what the risky
time racing,
risky sleepy time races. Like, so, yeah, he's here, but his teammate isn't, Rick, because he just despises this track.
Fair play. I can't argue against that because it is not one of the favourite tracks of my repertoire, I think. But
I think it's a bit of a test of precision, isn't it? Really, but it's but yeah, unless the car in front makes a mistake, yeah, you're kind of stuck there.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we've got that looks like Ollie Walker there behind David Line, having just was that cutting his engine there? I believe he might be fuel saving.
Well, he could be. This track doesn't use a lot of fuel, does it? But on the other hand, also when you're stuck behind another car around this track, you may as well save some fuel because you're not getting past.
Yeah, that's very true. So Nicola Lee has managed to build almost a second gap ahead of Miller as well, which is having a good debut so far. As we see Joe Barlow sitting in 4th position in class. So see a replay of what happened to Lee Harding here. It was coming together with it was someone Gural had a coming together with, both going for the same real estate. Yeah, not sure if perhaps one had couldn't see it in the point of view as we view on board Damon Mitchell. Managed to get the brakes on fairly early, which is great, and managed to avoid that.
I kind of feel like one of them maybe shouldn't have turned in, and the other one maybe should have turned in a bit more.
Yeah, as we see Chris White making a slide, I think the car in front kind of went in front of him and had to brake whilst turning. He's back on track, ready to go.
Got away with it.
That was James Pepper we just seen in 6th position. As we see, who was that? That looks like it's one of the Peppers there. In fact, it is James Pepper. You don't want to reverse there. Is that's his dad? It's Steve Pepper. He's managed to kind of spook.
Yeah, so he just spooked him, really, didn't he? Because yeah, there was enough space.
Yeah, that's a really strange one, but yeah, he'll be getting a telling off at home, hopefully.
I have had that happen to me as well in the past. You've just been going along and somebody else has looked like they're driving into your path, but then they've stopped, but you've already started taking evasive action, and then it's your own evasive action that makes you fall off the track.
Yeah, exactly. So both the Peppers have got a bit of work to do. Steve Greening is having a look, but not quite. Yeah, so Max, he's looking quite fast compared to the car of Maxwell. He's really getting on the back of him. So Greening might be a dark horse in this race. He's managed to pull himself up a little bit.
Yeah, he was quite off in qualifying, wasn't he? But it doesn't. Ultimate pace doesn't count for so much in a race.
Speaking of pace, Nicola Lee setting the fastest lap of the race so far. It looks like a very speedy lap from him, so we need to keep an eye out. He's managed to bring that gap down to half a second, so he might even be in contention for the lead. As Steve Pepper rolls off. A few battles going on for various positions. Simon Garrow will be one who will be trying to make amends from that error early on. As Lee Harding sits behind him. Paul Gerber having an incident into turn 3. I'm sure that won't be the last we see. He's crabbing a little bit, so I think he's going to have to tow. That's a shame to happen so early. And this is just got into power too early, but he managed to keep it out of the barrier, James. Not a lot Steve could do really. He could have kept going the same line, but potentially it would have looked like James was going to reverse over there, taking a very wide line. Get back on track, Steve. I guess this track is a little bit like Marmite, isn't it? You're either going to love it or hate it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I always find with any track, there's always something in there to like.
That's something not to like is seeing Lee Harding going off backwards, really. That's a really odd place to go off. Must have been pushing a little bit too hard in the final corners.
For around this section is I quite enjoy it, even in the GT3.
Yes, Line's got ahead of Greening there that we've just missed, but he's picked it up a little bit. It's either something. I wonder if Greening had a slowdown. That would explain.
I expect that was it. Yeah, because look at that.
Yeah. He is
fuel saving. Yeah.
So a little bit of tactics going on from Mr. Walker, Mr. Esports. Simon Grau is off again. So he was doing really well in the first race. It looked like he's got a lot of potential, but it's a couple of incidents picking up here.
Well, he outqualified the reigning world champion,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. A bit of facts about Rudskogen. Do you know that the track lap record is actually held by a supercart, beating the likes of a Formula 4 TCRs and your Porsche 911 GT3s?
It doesn't surprise me that much, knowing how tight the track is. But that's interesting. I mean, how's it pronounced? I mean, is it Rudskogen or is that just how we pronounce it because we read it? I
guess that's how we say it. I guess if you're Norwegian or Swedish, it's Rudskogen. Or I don't count me on that one, but maybe Tora Malaran, if he's watching, he'll be able to correct our Scandinavian accents.
Yeah, I mean, to me that sounded just like you pronounce it the same way, but just with a with a Norwegian accent.
So Nicola Lee is still hovering around the half-second mark behind Conception, who's holding that. Rob Miller's dropped off a little bit. He's 1.8 seconds behind. So the top split have kind of spaced themselves out a little bit. I don't know if that's just giving each other space, or whether it's on pace alone. It's a Good lap from Miller, 20.5. So he's picking it up a little bit. So the top 8 in the top split is see Chris White giving Lee Harding position. The top 8 in the top split seem to have got ahead of the Club 1500 lot now, so they should be focusing ahead. This is what happens to Simon.
Well, it's an overtake.
Yeah.
I mean, that is pretty much one of the only... That's the main place, really, you can do a legitimate overtake.
Yeah, it's gone in very hot there. I think that's Mark Innes had to make a little bit of evasive action when Lee Harding tapping the Mark's behind. That explains why he was going off. He wasn't... Yeah, perhaps wasn't expecting the breaking point. It's not a good race. I think he's going to have to write this one off. Simon being squeezed by Du Gerber. So,
was that an attempted overtake?
Yeah. I don't think Du Gerber was actually expecting that to happen.
Yeah,
so,
I don't see many moves done there.
As we can see, that looks like Steve Greening's got a slowdown from all 4 tyres going across.
That's Line getting past him after Greening getting a slowdown.
Back to the action. There's Rich Smeesters. We haven't seen much of him this race so far. He's hot on the heels of Du Gerber. He's in 6th position currently. Just done a 122, so he's closing in on Gerber, in fact, by 4/10 or so. But it looks like the top 2 in the clubbers is bolted from stable. It's between those 2.
So what's happening? Because Nick was half a second behind, and now he's 2. He must have got a slowdown or something.
There's no. If it had been a spin, he would have no doubt lost position. So it has to be a slowdown. As we see, that looked like Ollie Walker just having a peek at Steve Greening. I wonder if Ollie's just happy to sit behind him for now.
Well, so when we drove the F3s here, I think that was the first. Was it the first time that we managed that the no stopper was done in the F3?
Possibly. It could have been quite. Yeah.
Have we? We've never had one in the GT3. I'm sure probably Don Parker's managed one at some point, but. I don't think anybody else has.
Yeah, as we see Dan Hill just overtaking his teammate Joe Barlow for position. But they've got a lot of work to do to catch up to Mark Zeff and Mitchell. Simon Garau sets the fastest lap in the clubbers. Ollie's getting very close to that tail end of Greening. And we see Ollie Ettrish in the background just lurking. You'll be hoping that they start battling and he can catch up. He's not too far behind. And in fact, those guys ahead, Nicola Lee, Rob Miller, Stephen Maxwell, they're quite close together now, so that might allow Line to catch up as well. It is quite a long pit straight here, considering the length of the track. So if you can go for the no stopper, it might prove very beneficial.
I think it wouldn't have to be a long, pit for it to work though, right? I mean,
there's quite a lot of opportunity to fuel save, especially going down this section here. You can literally cut off and let the car roll in. And of course, if you're sitting behind someone like Ollie is at the moment, you can reap the rewards. Lee Harding back on track.
And it's these two again. He's seems to be
like magnets at the moment, aren't they? Yeah, Ollie Ettridge is. He rolled that in nicely. It doesn't sound like he was pushing too much, does it? In fact, it doesn't sound like he's pushing.
No, it's a Sunday drive, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's a very relaxed Sunday drive, isn't it? Yeah, I'm not sure.
Greening's falling 3 seconds behind line here, so yeah, I'm starting to wonder whether he's caught on to the fuel saving game.
Yeah, I suspect you're right there, Dave. It does seem something is up. You don't lose that time very easily.
Yeah, because that's not. I mean, it was a few tenths offline in qualifying, but that's a lot of time to lose in a few laps without a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in the clubbers, Mitchell is leading the way, a second ahead of Mark Zeff. And we've got Hill and Barlow fighting for the podium position. We've got Du Gerber and Meesters in 5th and 6th respectively, ahead of Pepper. I assume that would be James Pepper. Simon Garau is only a second and a half behind him. And we've got White and Sean Clark is sitting in 10th at the moment, ahead of what I believe is Steve Pepper. And speaking of Sean Clark, there he was going past. He's going to shortly be lapped by Steve Greening and Ollie. This is a very short track, so we expect people to be lapped at least once. Expertly letting them through.
It's got to be said though, although there's one or two sections here I kind of enjoy the GT3, it does feel very sluggish around here, and just especially, I mean, I've just been driving a Lotus 79 around Zolder, then I stopped that and started the GT3 around Rudskogen, and I was just like, what, this car is barely working.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort to get it around the corners. I think you're not even gonna get above 4th gear here, are you really? I can't really see, even down here, down the hill, like you're going to anticipate the next turn.
Well, the BMW never gets to the top gear anyway, does it? Even in Spa. I don't know what's it for. What's that gear for? Is it just for Le Mans, maybe?
Just for sure.
Just Le Mans.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah. Which means this lets Simon Garau through. I think he realised Simon's being very pacey. He doesn't want to hold them up. So Meesters has dropped back a little bit, so he might have had a slowdown or a spin.
So Greening's fallen to 4.3 behind line here, so
yeah,
he's taking it easy.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Esports is not pushing either. He's happy to sit behind. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, especially as we reach the latter stages, who's got the most fuel to push. So it's a small game of chess going on. A very slow game of chess, I may add, going through this section.
Yeah, and if you're sort of taking, if you're not going flat as well, then it reduces the risk of you making a mistake as well. So
let's see how much of a lead Evan can
Walker's
pull
just
out.
gone past Greening.
Yeah, so game on for those guys.
Greening must have made a mistake there.
Perhaps he's got to slow down. Or maybe he just wants Ollie to take the lead and let him do the work. And that's Mark Innes. Just bring it in very hot around turn 3. Getting a clip from, might have been Steve Pepper. Or was it Mark Zeff, possibly one of those two. And Steve's not enjoying this track. I think we can see. we're going to see what happens here.
Right, well...
No, he decides to take the lead there. He's going to take the initiative.
I just get a feeling he let him through there.
Yeah, it's an odd one. It doesn't look like they're both pushing, so...
I mean, yeah, Greeny didn't make a mistake there, so he just looked like, he didn't go wide or anything, so I just don't think he was, putting his foot down out the corner.
So, Damon Mitchell out in front.
What's going on there?
Still, yeah, it's the 18 cars.
But Maxwell's got past Rob.
Yeah. So, possibly another slowdown. That's allowed line to get in the back of those two. Ollie Walker now setting his fastest lap, so perhaps he's saved enough fuel now that he can start pushing. But impossible to tell really. But if that gap starts, in fact, he is built just over half a second gap from Greening. As Simon Garau is still battling his way through. This time it looks like James Pepper is trying to chase down. And James is looking to get his first points on the board this season. I wonder if he'll battle Simon here as we see what happens to Stephen Maxwell. And that was Rob Miller. Yeah, he just got his tyres over the...
Yeah, I mean, it was only just slowed down, wasn't it?
I thought it was very harsh.
It is pretty harsh.
As Lee Harding finally gets round Simon Garau. I guess it's difficult when you're battling someone in a different split who's going at a similar pace. Especially at a track like this where it's quite short.
Yeah, I mean, I think Garau qualified ahead of Lee.
Yeah. So, as we see the two 18 cars heading down into turn 3.
So you can tell them apart because line tends to go for the red wheels.
Ah, right, I see, that's interesting.
And I'm not quite sure what it is. I don't know if it's because Rob wants you to be able to tell that which car's his, or whether he just can't be bothered. I'm not sure. But the 18 truck does have red wheels.
Ah, so Mr. Line is replicating that. It was interesting there, just seeing the different lines that Ollie and Steve were taking. Steve was taking a lot more of the curb in that kind of middle chicane than what Ollie was, as we see Joe Barlow taking a position ahead of his teammate Dan Hill, so perhaps Dan had to slow down. Didn't seem like team orders, so they've got a very large gap. It's 17 seconds now to reach back up to Mark Zeff. Rob Miller closes in slightly on Stephen. So I wonder if this will be the race that Stephen finally gets a solid podium position.
Well, that's where he is at the moment.
Yeah. Traffic might come into play later on as well. Just thinking about it.
But it wasn't long ago that Miller was close to Nick Lee. Now he's with 4 seconds behind.
Yeah, so dropped off. Sean Clark setting his fastest lap of the race. I just noticed there, so he's picked up the pace a little bit. There hasn't been any huge gains of positions really, as we see there. The odd 2 or so. A couple of people have dropped 3 positions or 6 positions. I think that's White and Garau. Nothing major.
Your best bet really is to get really close to people and just make them nervous. They make a mistake, getting off track.
Yeah, putting it bluntly. Yeah. Which Mark Zeff might be doing here to Damon Mitchell. He's been sitting behind him pretty much all race since they battled at lap 1. Lee Harding catching up to the back of James Pepper. He's almost had the run, but he's going to have to take it easy. Yeah, patience is key going around here.
So long before you can get back on throttle around this corner.
Yeah, it seems forever, doesn't it? And even then it tends to drag you a little bit wide. Yeah, most people setting low 122s at this stage of the race in the clubbers. Not much difference in them on lap times across the board there. Let's see if these guys are going to pit shortly. We're almost approaching that time.
I mean, I'm just kind of watching Rob's car here, and it just seems a little bit twitchy. You know, you can just see a number of times I've just seen his car sort of twitch slightly. So yeah, he seems to be struggling at this stage a little bit.
Yeah, maybe burned the tyres a little bit. They got a little bit too much heat. As we've seen, Joe Barlow was off the track there. Let's see what happened to him. I think Sean wasn't anticipating him to take the apex. He seems to be still in one piece. Yeah, just a difference of speed going into the corner.
What was it? It was very slow. Has he got damage, or was he trying to let him past?
I think he was trying to let him past. Yeah.
It's just that's the kind of place where, yeah, it's not really easy to find your way past, is it really?
Yeah, that's true. So, Steve Green, he's picking up the pace a little bit here. So he does want to stay on the back of Walker.
Either that, or Walker has just realised, oh, I've been using too much fuel for the last couple of laps. I need to have a couple of laps where I'm using less fuel.
Yeah, that might be that as well. Yeah.
I don't know. Like I know, kind of fuel savings all part of motor racing, but I just same when you watch an F1 race and you see the more fuel save at the beginning of the race, right? Because it's just what they have to do. But I just much rather see everybody going flat out every lap, really.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
In a sprint race like this, I mean, essentially this is quite a short race.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of races, our next one I believe is at Watkins Glen, a 2-hour endurance race. So have some snacks and drinks at the ready for the commentary on that one. Wow, that's James Pepper making a massive dash towards the rear end of Du Gerber. So he thinks he's going to pick up the 4th position here. So Du Gerber's lost a bit of time.
Have we done a 2-hour commentary before?
Yeah, I think we have. Yeah. Or was it an hour and a half?
Maybe it's an hour and a half. We're going to have to bring something with us to pass the time.
Yeah, a few shot glasses and yeah, definitely. As we see Lee Harding enter the pit lane. So I'm not sure if that was scheduled or not. Whether he's it says he's going to the pit exit now, so whether that was a drive-through, I'm not sure. Or maybe his pit stall is right at the beginning. Yeah, if that was a pit stop, that was very quick. Oh, that was James Pepper again. It's slightly off track. And it's going to allow someone to go out. He's going to attempt around the outside, but James can defend it. Yeah, fairly straightforward. That's on the power nicely.
That might give him a better run to be able to nip down the inside here, but no.
Yeah, I think that was a wise decision because they're going to lose time to do in front. I haven't seen much of those guys so far, but James Pepper opts to pit now. That's interesting. So he thinks now's the advantageous time to go for the fuel stop. Stephen Maxwell in 3rd position. Still got Rob Miller and David Lyne near or nearabouts. Ollie Etcher just dropped off a little bit. So, that was Rob Miller, wasn't it? Rob Miller's got it wrong going into the penultimate corner. In fact, is he going to hit the pit lane? He is indeed.
I worried for a bit there he was going to hit the pit entrance like he did in the F3.
Yeah. I remember that, yeah. Good memory. So, Rob Miller, first of the leading cars in. Marcus F still lurking it on Mitchell's tail. Nothing major happening with those two. Front three look like they've cemented their positions in the clubbers for now. We'll see how the pit stops play out and if anyone is gonna have the no stopper. So Rob Miller's out in the way.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that with Gural's qualifying pace, he'd just be walking away with this, but he's had some iffy sort of moments.
Yeah, that might keep him in the clubbers for now. There have been drivers in the past, and remember, like Turin Millar, he dropped down in the open wheeler class because he found although he had the pace of the top splitters, he just never had the consistency. So it sometimes takes that to kind of rein in your driving technique, as you see White letting Conception go through to lap him. White having a very quiet race. I don't think this is his track after his spin on lap 1. Letting Nick Lee, it looks like he's got a bit of pace. It's going to be interesting to see if he comes back for the next few races.
Yeah, I'd like to see how he does, really, because he's obviously pretty quick. So this is a fairly unusual track for GT3s. He likes corners, right? He likes cars that like corners, which this is all about. So I'd like to see how he fares on in GT3s on the next couple of tracks. Good.
Yeah, definitely. Du Gerber sitting his fastest lap of the race, as we just seen. Paul Gerber's out of the race, unfortunately, and Mark Innes is similarly retired, as well as it looks like Steve Pepper. And that was Rich Meesters in the pit lane for his stop. Yeah, as we see a nice aerial shot of the lead 2 in Club 1500. Nicola Lee's dropped back a little bit now.
Line's just taken a chunk out of Maxwell. I know he was obviously behind Rob, and I think he fell to about 3.5 seconds behind Maxwell. He just caught up a little bit there.
Yes. The gap is only 4.5 seconds between Walker and Line. So if Line is going to pit, it's going to, and Walker doesn't, that's going to give a quite substantial gap, because I think we're talking about between 40 and 45 seconds the total length from entering the pit lane to exiting.
I mean, let's face it, if a zero stop is possible here, then they're going to win by a long way. So I think possibly if that's going to be the case, then the drivers that aren't zero stopping they obviously just didn't think it through properly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Olietra's dropped off a little bit. Line setting his fast lap at 20.567.
Well, he's got a little bit of clean air, hasn't he? For
he can start to push a little bit. Yes. White once again gets out of the way. I think that's been a familiar occurrence of his race today. It's probably cost him a little bit, but that's how it goes sometimes. Yes, someone on the back of Du Gerber, it looks like.
carried so much more speed in there, didn't he? But
Yeah,
then he kind of lost it a little bit in the middle. But yeah.
So Dan Hill taking his pit stop as well. So just got the last few of the clubbers to take their pit stop, and so it does look like none of the clubbers are going to opt for the no stopper, so no tactics involved in their class. Nick Lee's closed that gap by 3/10, so I wonder if something happened to Evan Conception there. Sean Clark coming in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine he's sort of managing his pace a little bit at this point, really. Although if he isn't zero stopping, he probably shouldn't be. He probably should be doing qualifying laps every single lap.
Yeah, absolutely right. In fact, Line has brought that gap down even more. He's only a second behind.
I think that could be because Maxwell's starting to drop off the pace, maybe slightly more than, or it's 50-50, and it's because Maxwell's now nearly 8 seconds behind Lee.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Simon Garau is desperate to get this third position. Still to stop as well. We'll have to bear that in mind. As we've seen Joe Barlow in the background there, he was in the pits.
He's obviously got the pace there. What he needs to do is just go run for one lap longer before he pits, and he should do it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if Dan Hill, Joe Barlow, if they're going to meet Simon at some point during this race. Because Simon's possibly being held back a little bit here. It's a legitimate fight for position, so you're absolutely in your right to defend like Du has been doing. He's taken spooked him a little bit there, but he's went back in the racing line.
Yeah, that wasn't an attempt to overtake, that was just an attempt to spook, wasn't it, really?
Yeah. Du getting a little bit wide. He indeed enters the pit lane. That releases Simon.
Yeah, he just needs to. Oof.
That was a very late lunge. Managed to get on the brake, so that.
I'm not sure if that was an attempted overtake. I think that was just kind of just caught out slightly.
Yeah. I expect these guys to be pitting very soon. Yeah, it's very close. We only got 6 minutes or so left in this race, so not many laps left.
This is probably around the time that the one stoppers have realised, are starting to realise, there's 6 laps to go, and I've only got 4 laps of fuel. I probably could have zero stopped this with a little bit of fuel saving.
Yeah, definitely. Lee Harding's back out on track, although he is going to be lapped shortly by Maxwell and Line. Line definitely piling on the pressure now. Yeah, there's Maxwell picking up and off track, no doubt there.
Line needs it to be a slowdown though, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Maxwell's been very solid, not made a lot of major mistakes.
Yeah.
I don't think he's had any slowdowns.
Yeah. And I think this is David Line gonna. No, he's still going around for another lap.
Yeah, sometimes you just go a little bit wider out there to try and get a bit of a slingshot, get a bit more of a run here, but you never can. You never can. You can never get a run down there.
Just seeing the lap times, they have dropped off by, well, almost a second in some cases. So I wonder if they have actually started to realise actually we need to try and save fuel.
Well, I think anybody that hasn't saved fuel up to this point, past the point of no return.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, definitely. Not that long left to go. So as it stands, Conception out in front ahead of Nicola Lee, Maxwell then Line, who we see it right now. Then there's Walker, Greening, Ettridge, Miller, who is pitted, sits in 8th position, and Lee Harding. Innes and Gerber retired from the top split. Mitchell and Zeph leading the way in Club 1500 ahead of Simon Guerrero, who has just pitted at the moment. He's currently sitting ahead of Dan Hill, Gerber, White, Pepper, Meesters and Barlow. So that is Guerrero just pitting now. He's probably going to relinquish to Hill and possibly Gerber.
But we're expecting him to be in third position when he comes out though, aren't we?
Yeah. And this is White and Pepper fighting for position. White is on a no stopper, it looks like, but I think he realises he's not in battle with James today. So James has managed to move up to 6th position, and Maxwell enters the pit lane.
So Line hasn't followed him, so
yeah, he's going to have another lap.
Yeah, if Line's, well, maybe, or maybe he's fuel saving. Maybe he's going to make it to the end. But
take Herculean effort if he does manage to do that. Oh, someone getting mighty close.
Was there even a bit of contact there?
Steve Green coming back in the inside, muscles him out.
Well, I mean, has he been lapped there? I guess he must be being lapped, but yeah, it looked like Simon had had a little more pace, but then I guess it might be a fuel saving thing.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah. So, yeah, if you look at the standings there, a lot of the people still to pit, and we've only got 3 minutes left of the race. Nicola Lee is in, so that's a very, very late stop. That's David Line in the background there as well. So, yeah, now Ollie Walker has just gone past. Greening going past. Ettridge we've just seen go past as well. But Evan still to stop. He's got a 15-second gap. So I don't think it's going to be enough.
I mean, I would say anybody that's pitting right now will be kicking themselves if this lot make it to the end without stopping, because they got quite close without even trying to fuel save.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's very small margins. This is White on the back of Meesters, but I think Meesters is probably going to pull away because White, by the looks of it, is saving fuel to the end. Not the best race for him today, but Meesters picking up 7th position. He's not too far behind James Pepper as well, so Meesters might be able to chase him down before the end if he's lucky. Sean Clark in 9th.
So I guess it's really a case of, okay, so here's the leader in, he's pitting.
Yeah, so
really late. I mean, well, if people are no stopping here, he is going to be distraught. Because look at it, it's just a minute and a half left.
Yep, and there they go past. That's Walker and Greening going past, and Ettridge will be no doubt just behind them, a couple of seconds or so. So the battle is on between Greening and Walker for what I believe will be the win here.
I mean, yeah, it's a tortoise and the hare thing, really. I mean, but both these two qualified quite low down.
Yeah.
Maybe just thought, don't really quite have the front running pace, but let's give the zero stop a go. I mean, unless they could still pit, but they don't have much time left. Is this the last lap or second to last lap?
But probably the second to last lap, as we see Mark Zeff had to pit. Mitchell still to come in for the cover, so he's 4th overall at the moment. Ollie Walker still fuel saving slightly, and was that a small shift as well?
I mean, it's really a question between these two then, is sort of who has more left in the tank than the other one, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, like obviously that they both want to make it to the end, but who is sort of 100 yards short?
Greening looks like, I would say, the favourite at the moment. It did look like he was pushing a lot more than what Ollie was.
In the early stages he did, yeah. But then he sat in the toe of Ollie for most of the race.
Yeah, so the Alpha Esports driver sitting in front for now, but he's been very closely followed by Greening. So it's going to make an interesting last lap.
Did I just see somebody pitting?
Yeah, that's Mitchell
with 1 lap
probably
to go.
on the white flag.
Oh, no.
That's an absolute nightmare. Let's see if Mark Zeff gets ahead of him. He can't be that far behind.
I mean, at this point, if you've only got 3/4 of a lap of fuel, you're better off just half throttle all the way around.
Yeah.
Well, that's all you can do, really.
Yeah, you can't really do anything else. Greening having a small look. He's going to get the cut back. Sean Clark moving out of the way to let these guys through.
I get the sense that Ollie's in trouble a little bit here.
Yeah, Greening's looking very racy around here.
And I think that's to do with Ollie not having enough fuel. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
you can hear
his
it.
engine's cut.
Yeah.
And that's going to allow Greening the win here at Rudskogen. Well done, Steve Greening. That's right on the line, but he's a massive fuel saver this time round. Ollie Walker gets second position. It was very unfortunate just to come out of fuel on the line. Ollie Etridge takes third position. That's a great drive from him.
I feel sorry for Evan though.
Yeah, Evan did all the hard work, but close but no cigar. In fourth position, Nicola Lee taking fifth. And we see Stephen Maxwell and David Lyne cross the line in 6th and 7th respectively. Rob Miller a little bit far down the order considering where he was before the stop, so perhaps he had a slowdown or so. Damon Mitchell taking first position for the clubbers. Well done, Damon. Great result. Just ahead of Mark Zeff, so he managed to keep ahead on that final lap pit stop of his. Simon Garrard takes the final position in third in the clubbers, ahead of Dan Hill, Gerber, Pepper, Meesters, White and Clark. Joe Barlow had to take another pit stop. Sits in 10th position when he crossed the line. But yeah, Steve Greening, 1 out of 1 for him.
Well, yeah, because he wasn't he didn't do the first race, did he? So I'm not quite sure if he is fully doing the championship, but I think he likes his track.
Yeah, so we see on board from his perspective. Amazingly, he still had enough fuel to go back around to the pit stop. So maybe when he did allow Ollie to take the lead, which we think he did, was the difference.
It was tactical, wasn't it? But I mean, it's kind of. I'm surprised he had that much. But you know, in the first few laps, he looked like he was just going for it really, and then he changed his mind, didn't he? Maybe he had that slowdown, sort of dropped back a little bit, and then thought, I'm just gonna go for the 0 stop.
As we see a slowdown here, that looks like Line. He's got a penalty in the last lap, which might cost him position, we'll soon see. As the race results come in, Steve Greening wins ahead of Ollie Walker, and Ollie Etridge takes the final podium spot. Evan Conception, despite leading the vast majority of the race, takes fourth ahead of Nicola Lee, who had an impressive debut in the GT3s. Stephen Maxwell takes 6th position ahead of Rob Miller, who, according to the standings, is ahead of David Lyne based on the penalty received in the last lap. So that's a nightmare for Lyne, and Harding had a bit of a nightmare this time round. Damon Mitchell takes the win in Club 1500 ahead of Mark Zeff. So it's really between 2-horse race between those guys all around the track. Simon Garrard takes third despite having a few spins early on. Dan Hill takes fourth ahead of Du Gerber, James Pepper, Rich Meesters, Chris White. Sean Clark takes 9th ahead of Joe Barlow, and Steve Pepper retired fairly early on. but he'll come back with a vengeance next time round, I'm sure, as we head to Watkins Glen. And now we will go on to the standings. Ollie Walker out in front with 93 points. He's asserting his dominance already, but Steve Greening, who's only had one race so far, has that magic 50-point total. Evan Conception on 46, ahead of Don Parker, who we didn't see today, is on 42, joint with Lee Harding. And it's very close actually between them and Lyne, Maxwell and Ettridge. So it's going to be a very close battle for the remaining races of the season.
Yeah, I feel a bit like Ollie got not lucky there, but I mean he was qualified 8th, not particularly strong at this track, but still got a really good result, you know.
Yeah, definitely. As we see in the Club 1500, Mark Zeff and Damon Mitchell tied on 93 points for the time being, ahead of Garral, Hill, Gerber, White, Pepper, Meters, Pepper, Barlow and Clark. So yeah, it's still an open race for those guys. It's Simon's looking very racy. We'll see if he can make some improvements to his racecraft over the course of the season. Alpha Esports leading the way in the championship standings as it stands, with 4X Racing on 86. Of course, Dan Shaw wasn't here today, but we expect him back shortly. Maybe past his bedtime this time round. I wonder if he's going to have to only serve half the race at Watkins Glen. The A team out on 62 points, ahead of Risky Time there in 4th. It's a DSR duo combination on 1st and 2nd position in the clubbers, well out in front of 722 Motorsport and Progresso F Racing. Yeah, and a few lagging behind there in the championship standings there. It looks like DSR are going to have a good fight there for the win in the championship, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So that wraps up things here at Rudskogen. Any particular drivers you're impressed with today, Dave?
Evan and Nick. No offence to Steve, right? and Ollie, with their dastardly fuel saving, but I think I think Evan deserved the win there. Yeah, no, I'm not going to say he's robbed, but that's what I mean.
Yeah, I think going into Watkins Glen is going to be. I mean, if Steve shows up, I think he's quite strong at that track as well, from memory. Ollie potentially as well. So not necessarily based on fuel saving, but Evan again. Like if he showed already at Spa, he's got some pace. So if he can keep that up, he may well be in contention for the win. But you can't count out Miller and Lyne as well. I think they were just unlucky with the strategy today. Yeah, of course, Nick Lee, great debut. In the clubbers, I think we've got Simon, who's showing that he can be very competitive with his pace, but he has to maybe rein in the incidents or spins. But there's a good battle going on behind with Damon Mitchell, Mark Zaff, and a couple of others there as well, like Gerber, and yeah, definitely open in that split as well. So that will wrap up things for us in Norway. We will join you across the pond at Watkins Glen, and we'll no doubt see you next time round for a special endurance event. Join us then. You can join us also on our social media channels, and if you want to join our racing as well, hit our Discord and we'll link you up there. So it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Dave.
Bye bye. See you later.